Welcome to the Milk Bottle e-commerce show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, one of the world's top-rated accredited Shopify e-commerce experts. Founder Keith Matthews interviews e-commerce professionals, app developers and entrepreneurs to share as much digital knowledge and e-commerce tips and tricks as possible. This podcast is kindly supported by our go-to e-commerce tools. Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify, BigCommerce, Trello and more. Let's just say it's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever get for your Shopify store and all your valuable data. Simply go to rewind.io/milk bottle to get your first month for free. We just love Klaviyo, our preferred automated email solution we use in every store build. No wonder it's trusted by over 65,000 ambitious growing brands worldwide. Find out more on klaviyo.com/milk bottle. Looking for easy accounting for e-commerce? Cinder can relieve you from manual data entry and automatically generate an accurate P&L report, balance sheet and inventory management for your business needs. A few clicks and you'll get access to the key metrics to find the hidden streams of income for your business. Use a coupon code EASYBOOKS for up to 40% off. Check out the show notes for further details.
Hey folks, welcome back. Today I am delighted to welcome Matteo Grassi. Matteo is the co-founder of Popup, a no-code e-commerce platform that enables merchants to visually build and control customer journeys. I've known Matteo for quite some time, since we began working together while Matteo was on the Shopify Plus team and we worked on some common projects. Aside from that, Matteo is an experienced traveller, he's a tech entrepreneur and he's an e-commerce expert with over 15 years of experience building businesses, and he's enjoyed some delightful successes and spectacular failures. I don't think, Matteo, that your failures were spectacular, but how are you?
No, they were a bit spectacular, especially some, in the past. No, I'm very good, thanks.
Good. Great to have you. I have been following you for many years. The majority of it is your content on LinkedIn, so it's nice to finally put a face to the name. This interview was actually supposed to be virtual. I was delighted when you mentioned that you're actually going to be in Dublin. So it's great to have you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you in person. I remember you from, the times in Shopify. It's actually nice. It seems such a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's actually not. And it makes me realize how much I progressed in my life since, I joined Shopify as a merchant success manager till now, from Vice Group and now, probably creating an e-commerce platform that will compete with Shopify. I mean, many people say, are you competing with Shopify? We say, we try to be as vague as we can, but in reality, we want to do that.
Good. Well, listen, before we get into that, and we've loads to talk about, your experience first off. You were born in Italy, okay? Yes. So what brought you to Ireland?
It was a long story. I left Italy after I got a degree in psychology. I worked with kids with autism for a year. Then I realized that's not what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to be a dancer at the time. So I moved to New York and got into Broadway dance school and spent about 8 months in New York. And I get to meet some very talented Japanese and Koreans. And I realized if I wanted to be a dancer, I had to be at that level. And I realized that was not going to happen. I wanted to see the world and I wanted to do other things, especially because New York, it's like having a glimpse of what the world is like in one city. I get to eat Chinese food for the first time and, meet people from all over the world, because Italy is a beautiful country, but it's still very much traditional and closed off. And so after that, I started traveling to Southeast Asia. And after that, I ended up in Australia because I ran out of money while I was traveling in Southeast Asia. So I need to make some money. And I ended up being in Australia for about 4 years. And at the time I met my first wife, and she's Irish, and I moved to Ireland.
That's the connection. So
that's the connection.
Let's ask a typical Irish question when anybody says Australia. Was it Melbourne or Sydney that you were in?
I was in Sydney. I was in the northern beaches of Sydney. It was a beautiful, beautiful life. I lived in front of a beach.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
I do. I think Australia is one of the most beautiful country that I have ever been. I thought after a couple of years living there that I was never going to leave. And on the third year, I was like, no, I need to get out. And this happens to a lot of people, because you start to feel trapped. You realize I'm in an island in the middle of nowhere, 24 hours plane from anything that is familiar to me. And if you're European and you love, history and culture,
It's not there.
It's not there, and the fact that you cannot fly to, a different country with drinking different, drinks and eating different food and experiencing something completely different within an hour and a half and €28 flight with Ryanair, right?
Yeah, the people go over there and they miss the Ryanair factor. I lived there for a few years, had a great time, and it was expensive. And I can only imagine with what's going on now in the world with, inflation in every economy. I would say, well, I know I've still friends over there, that it has become very, very expensive to live over there.
Yeah.
But like any country, it's got benefits and it's good things and bad things. But ultimately, it is an island. Very, very far away, isn't it?
Yes, and the fact is, it's very big, but it's not. At the end of the day, you have Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, and then you have WA with Perth, which is 3 hours, 4 hours flight. So once you get to know the few cities, that's it, and there's not much to do to get out. I mean, you can go to New Zealand, you can go to Bali, like many Australians do, but everything that was familiar to me seemed so far away, and I realized I wanted to live in the cultural hub of the world, which I realized was Europe. And I remember someone telling me, your happiness is actually closer than you think, but you need to travel the world to realize that. And at the time when I was moving back, I realized, oh yeah, that person was right.
Yeah. So after Australia, you came to Ireland.
I came to Ireland, yes.
But when we spoke before, you mentioned, was it a trip to India?
The trip to India was in 2016.
Oh,
in 2016.
More recent, yeah.
Yeah, it was just before I joined Shopify, and I spent a couple of months in India.
Very good, very good.
In an ashram.
Explain.
I met someone that had this experience in this ashram called Amritapuri, which is the ashram run by Amma, which is the Amma, the guru, the hugging saint.
Okay.
And I'm not a very spiritual person. I've never done anything like that. But this guy said, look, you have to do it. And I know I have this type of personality that if I think, oh, that's something that I would do, I just do it. I don't think about it.
But you strike me as somebody that if you tried something, that you'd put 100% into it. Like yes. you weren't just dossing for 3 or 4 months.
No. I went in full on, and I tried to, get into the whole life inside the ashram of, I was meditating every day, waking up at 5 a.m. Was doing my seva, which is this type of work that you do that helps you to ease into meditation. So you do things like, I was working in a copy shop, and you just basically do the same thing over and over again for like 5-6 hours. And this kind of ease you into meditation, because your brain is so overwhelmed by everything that you experience in a normal world. And when you go into an ashram, you cannot just get in and meditate. So by doing this kind of repetitive work, it allows you to ease it in. And I spent a month there getting into to know the people. And I realized, I took the good things, and I realized what was the negative things, I guess, of living in an ashram. And I left, and the shock for me was going back to Ireland after India. I didn't have a shock going into India. It was a shock coming back.
Was it because because Ireland was kind of a developed country with privilege and with services, and you left a country maybe where there was more people impoverished? What do you think was the reason for that shock?
I think it's because India is so different from anything that you experience, especially when you go off the beaten path. And the ashram life, it is like a commune. So once you enter inside the dynamics of that, you are living in a community of people that are all very, very similar, but they are all very, very different from the normality of a day-to-day life. You wake up, you eat at a certain time all the time. You don't have to cook, and then you just meditate, and you attend these seminars, and you just enter in this type of dynamic that when you come back to just driving a car and work and jobs, it's just so different from everything that you experience.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I spent some time in Haiti in 2012, which is one of the only fourth world countries in the world. Mm-hmm. Dry rivers, deforested forests. I then moved back to Bermuda, which would be one of the highest per capita income rated countries according to the US CSO. And it was a shock, an absolute shock, to go from being around people with zero to being around people with too much and being around privilege. But I think that's the benefit of travel, which is exactly what you just said. Somebody mentioned to you that happiness is closer than you think, but you have to go around the world to realize how close it is, which is the benefit of travel.
Yeah.
I think that unhappiness or that shock maybe is proving that advice is right, really, you know?
Yeah, and something that we always say, and it's kind of a motto within Popup, it's that, you know, you have to focus on the journey and not much on the destination. It is in business and I think in life. And I think if you travel, you realize that the destination is not important. It's everything that happens that gets you there that actually, leaves a mark and creates experiences and make you grow as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agreed. So when you worked in Shopify is now heading for 2 million stores. When you worked there, which was what? Was it 14, 15, 16?
Yes. Yeah, 14, 16. Yeah, correct.
So there was probably only
600,000.
I would have said 600,000 stores.
Yeah.
Has that experience within Shopify, has that been of benefit, I suppose, the best way to describe it?
100%. Because I started actually as a guru in Shopify, one of the first people in Ireland. And then I was the first merchant success manager in Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
For the Plus team?
For the Plus team, yeah. Because Plus was fairly new. Plus came out very, very, during the time that I started. And they were looking for a Plus merchant success manager in Europe because the team was just in Canada. And I went to training in Toronto. And that's where I met Corey, which is my current business partner.
Very good.
Yeah, we met in Shopify. And I also met Kate as well, which is my other co-founder. And we all basically met in Shopify. And I think that the main thing that I learned in Shopify is understanding e-commerce from talking to merchants and talking to the guru experience was actually amazing because you are in the front line talking to people from all over the world with different experiences, different problems. And then obviously when I started working with Plus, you start talking to European merchants especially. They were trying to tackle things like cross-border commerce or tackling like how do I scale my ads. And I did learn a lot. And the other thing I learned is how to actually run a successful remote company. Because in terms of remote, Shopify has always been at the forefront of that. And from how to develop culture in a remote team, how to actually manage time, how to manage interaction within the remote team, I learned so much to the point that after Shopify, when I joined this e-commerce accelerator, was actually that. Was I took the experience in Shopify or running a remote team and trying to grow this company.
Matteo, at that time, do you think Shopify were working it out as they went along or were they leading it? Because they were certainly leading it publicly. They hired, I think, 400 or 500 people in Ireland remotely before most business people even knew they were in the country. They were doing it very quietly. So do you think they did it well?
100%, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that they did well in how to run and grow a remote team. There was a big shift when they hired the director of support, James Riordan, I think.
John Riordan.
John.
Well, I had John Riordan on the podcast.
Oh yeah. I think there was a shift, and I think it was a positive shift in the company, but it was also a negative shift as well within the team. I think what Shopify did badly is like they created this concept of company as a family instead of creating a company as a sports team. And we in Popup, we pride ourselves to creating a company like a sports team, not like a family.
So just on that then, right?
Yeah.
So after Shopify, Viceroy was the agency that you created. Was that with the two individuals you mentioned?
That's
Kate?
correct, yeah.
Okay. And what did Viceroy do? Because before you get into it, I noticed when you started that you very quickly recruited some really cool DTC brands. Okay. I wonder how you got to that point, which, I mean, you can explain. But is it correct to say that you saw a gap in the market for the services that these sort of brands required and that started Viceroy? Is that logical?
A lot of people think Viceroy was an agency, but we own the brands.
Yes, sorry, I use the word loosely.
Yeah.
Because you were creating the brands and then you were managing it and building the businesses through Viceroy. Isn't that right?
Yeah, we created the brands. Yeah,
Good point.
Yeah. We created the brands. We started small. We started with one brand, which is actually a headphone store. and we did about 25,000 in profit. And then we took those 25,000 and reinvested into another store. And then the store made, 250,000 in profits. And then we reinvested that. And then that's it. We basically started adding brands on brands after one after another.
And were you manufacturing your own? Everything was yours?
Yes. We used 3PL, so we didn't have our own fulfillment center. So we used 3PL in United States, UK, and the Netherlands. And we were working with contract manufacturers. So we would basically design the products, creating the molds sometimes and things like this, but we work with third party. For the supplements was the same. We created the formulas together with our partners, and then we were manufacturing in United States.
So was it hard?
It was, I think people think it's harder. I think it was simpler than I thought. But I think it's because myself and Corey and Kate, we've been doing this for a long time. And it's hard if you do it the first time, but I did it before, and the spectacular failures that I did in the past, they taught me how to not to do it. So it was easy for us to do it because we had so much knowledge. So when people say, I always say, Viceroy, we started with zero and we went to 40 million in revenue, which is true, but I need to define what zero is. It was zero money. I mean, we put $1,000, right? That was the initial investment that we put. But we had so much. I had all the contacts from the 3PL. I had, we created supplements before. Corey had a nutraceutical brand before. He was in Africa for 4 years selling nutraceuticals. So there was so much knowledge that we had that for us was like, okay, let's do this. It took us a month.
You've made a really good point, because everybody attributes the number of sales to success. But in actual fact, you had the ingredients which were more than likely the right ingredients in terms of your own experiences. Yeah. And you also, at a very young age, you got access to fast-growing brands through your experience in Shopify.
Correct.
And you probably can't put a number on that. Would that be right?
You can't. And I was hearing, there was a controversial thing that Kim Kardashian came out very recently, and he was like, I don't understand why women don't work that hard and things like that. And one thing, my criticism to that was like, you have to understand that you cannot say that you are, I'm not arguing with Kim Kardashian that she's not working hard, but she's been lucky to be in a privileged position. Yeah. It's not about money, it's about networking, right? Yeah. You come from money, but also you come from networking. You know the right people. Yeah. You get going from 0 to 1. It's very, very easy. And going from 0 to 1 is the hardest thing for most people. Yeah. Once you're there, and it's going from 1 to 2 to 3, it's much easier. It's that first step.
And for the listeners, Kim Kardashian's Skims clothing store is on Shopify, and her sister's store, Kylie Cosmetics, is one of the most successful stores on Shopify. It's funny you mentioned her, because there was I can't think of the guy. He's very popular on Twitter, and I think he has a deodorant brand. I can't quite think of his name, but he put out a tweet, I think it could have been a year ago, that everybody should be very proud of Kim Kardashian and her e-commerce success. I'm looking at her going, do you know who her daddy was? Do you know who her mommy was? Like, I mean, they were privileged people. They've certainly turned privilege into more success.
100%. I'm not saying they didn't work hard.
Yeah,
or Kylie did a fantastic job on the branding. And they didn't, and to me, they were good not to screw up what they had, like many people did. Yeah. But we have to acknowledge that there is luck, right? There is luck as well,
Interesting segue, actually. And just for the listeners and for yourself, I'm not obsessed with Kim Kardashian. No. I am on Twitter and she's on it. But I have a very good friend in New York who's very good to me. And I can't say his name because I think this conversation was under NDA, but he told me one time on a Zoom call during the lockdown that he had a very, very famous client on Shopify. And the last time he called her, she just told him to hold on for 30 seconds because she was driving her Bentley into the lift of her garage. And he wouldn't tell me which one it was, but it was either Kim or Kylie. So, I don't have any clients like that, but interesting wealth, you know.
Yeah.
But to go back to the point, I think you're dead right. The monetary value of the investment is not necessarily the check that you're right. There has to be the knowledge of your two former Shopify employees and yourself. So that's an important point. So before we get off Viceroy is still there, isn't that right?
100%, yes. Yeah.
Still a team and still managing successful brands, is that right?
Yeah, correct. I think it changed a lot from, since January. last year, January, February, when the iOS 14, 15 had kind of crushed acquisition in terms of advertising, and everyone experienced that. The brands were quite new, so it was harder for a new brand really focusing on retention, but the team managed. So less revenue, the team is a bit smaller, but the profitability is still there. And I think it's actually this business model, I like it. I prefer making less money with a smaller team and focusing on higher margin, correct. Because at the end of the day, you see e-commerce brand all the time, he made 20 million. Yeah, what was the profit?
Exactly.
20 million, but maybe they did 5% profit. Yeah. So it's you moving a lot of money, but at the end of the day, nothing remains. And moving a lot of money requires a lot of work because you are managing more people, the fees. It's just not as sustainable as running something smaller, I think.
And I have friends who run businesses and they measure the success based on turnover. Yeah. And it's that's actually a vanity metric because it's really irrelevant. I mean, it's obviously going to be a high number.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well. We were talking earlier on before I pressed record about the amount of people. If you tell them that you're doing your own gig, first thing they ask you is how many staff have you got? So straight away, the staff is a measurement of your success, when that's absolutely irrelevant. I've mentioned a book called The Company of One. Anybody listening, it's worth actually reading. Where I think it could be Paul Jarvis, and he basically explains that you don't have to have 1,000 people to have your own entity or your own successful company. Yeah. You can actually do it on your own. Just one sec and we will hear from our sponsors. Rewind.io is the leading backup solution for your Shopify store. Did you know that there's no way of recovering lost data? If your store is gaining traction, app developers or multiple staff may enter your store, and there's absolutely no way of fixing human error. Rewind.io allows you to rewind your store back to its original state, so you can reduce your business risk immediately with the Rewind app. It's so easy and is the cheapest and best insurance policy you'll ever need for your Shopify store. Get your first month for free by simply replying to your first email from Rewind and mention this podcast. Now, regular listeners will know I love Klaviyo. It's the single biggest revenue generator I've ever seen across hundreds and hundreds of Shopify stores I've been in. Klaviyo's data-driven marketing automation platform is sophisticated enough to power those legendary campaigns from the big brands you admire, but they make it simple, they make it easy, and they make it fast. To get started with a free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/milkbottle. That's klaviyo.com/milkbottle. Now, the no-code commerce platform. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I am all ears. And for the listeners, this started out as a Shopify podcast and the people I interview are Shopify related, but in actual fact, it's for everything. And yours is very, very relevant to the general e-commerce world and to Shopify customers who could potentially be your customer in the future. So give us the pitch deck.
We're merchants. So we started as merchants with Viceroy, and before that, we ran our own stores, and that's myself, Corey, and Kate. And while we were running Viceroy Group, we were trying to adapt to the ever-evolving e-commerce landscape. We were trying to do things like, launching native ads, right? Or, trying different Facebook campaigns with different landing pages, launching in different countries. We were trying to be as competitive as we could be. But we started to notice that a lot of things that we're trying to do were confined to a blueprint that has not changed since the 90s. So if you think about Shopify or WooCommerce or Magento, they're all based on a blueprint that started in the 90s with Yahoo Store. So they take that blueprint, which is a homepage, a product page, a cart, and a checkout, and then that's it. That's the blueprint you use. If you want to do something else, you need to use apps. Once you start using apps, you start overcomplicating things, and maybe 10, 12 years ago, a blueprint was enough. But today, e-commerce has been evolving a lot. So you have native ads, you have live streaming, and you have basically all these things that you want to do that you cannot just rely on apps because your data is fragmented. So we realized that what merchants are trying to do, merchants are trying to actually build customer journeys. And a customer journey can be a lead page that goes into a sales page, that goes to a checkout, and then is redirected maybe to a YouTube stream. A customer journey can be a live stream that goes into a checkout, and based on the order value, it can be redirected to another live stream, like a private live stream with a celebrity or an influencer, or to a checkout. And so we decided to give the ability to merchants to build their own blueprint, no code, with a visual customer journey builder. That's kind of it.
Okay, so is there a specific type of customer that you're targeting? Because originally when Shopify started and when Shopify, I remember back in like 10, 11, their promotional videos were these beautifully shot videos with these artisan producers of, handmade gifts and
Of course.
candles. And then suddenly they grew and they scaled. And I always thought that their vision, the kind of depth of Toby's vision to actually try and create something that would be something to everybody was actually quite ambitious. Is there a specific vertical or type of customer that you're after with Popup?
Yeah, Popup is very flexible. So one of the taglines is a platform as flexible as you are. And it is an end-to-end e-commerce platform. So it doesn't have to live on top of Shopify or any other platform. So he has a checkout, order management, consumer management, customer management, etc. But one thing that we noticed in Shopify was that migration is one of the biggest pain points. So we architected the platform in a way that you can use it instead of Shopify if you want, or you can use it in conjunction with Shopify by an order sync. And this is the thing that you see a lot with brands that have, let's say, a large catalog. So I would say Popup is not a great fit if you have thousands of products. Because if you have thousands of products, you want a browsing experience. You don't want to create a customer journey. You don't want to create a sales funnel. Someone calls them sales funnel or marketing funnel. You want people to come into your store and browse as much as they can. But what about the one-to-one collaboration with influencer? What about the Facebook campaigns when you want to, split test different audience and have a different homepage based on your ad set? What about maybe doing native ads where you don't send people to a product page, you have to send them to an infomercial, then going into the product page and get into a checkout? That's where Popup comes in. So you can use your Shopify store, your Magento or Demandware, and you can use Popup on the site. And this is the reason why we call the platform Popup. Very much like a Popup.store.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So you're giving people the ability to basically add value to a current store and allow those kind of relatively complicated functions like, native ads and, within as well. And do it, as you say, with no code.
Yes. Yeah.
So the individual that manages that store, do they still need to be technical? No technicality.
It's like you will be able to build a customer journey and placing the elements within a visual builder, very much like you see it on a platform like ManyChat, or a lot of these email marketing platforms use this type of structure to building conversational flows. So you're going to be able to build these flows in the customer journey without any code, placing the elements, and then you have an editor that allows you to edit the front end. What we did as well, we created our own front-end architecture that allows not to be relying on themes, which means you're going to have a library of sections, just like Shopify, but instead of being confined to a theme that if you want to change the section, you have to hire a developer, you have a library that will keep on adding different sections. So you can pick your header, you can pick your product feature, you can pick your review section and choose by 4 or 5 different ones.
That's funny that you say that, because at Milk Bottle, we build that library of sections.
Yeah.
Very good. So basically what you're saying is you're going to be putting us out of a job if you're successful.
No, I don't think, look, I love Shopify.
I say that in jest.
No, I think the big vision is that the future is going to be the online store, and hopefully Shopify is going to be relevant, and then Popup, and we're going to be the only one. Well, until someone copies us, of course. But
well, I always say that there's always room for a competitor, and competition is actually healthy.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the stage that you are at, you mentioned earlier on when we met beforehand that you had ran alpha and beta tests, was it?
Yeah, we did a beta during the summer, and we got great feedback, and we realized that we needed to change our journey builder and make it more, not complex, but more like our merchants wanted. And we came up with this concept called entry points, and entry points are like doors into your store. So initial journey builder has one entry point. The new journey builder has multiple entry points. An entry point can be a lead page, a home page, but an entry point is going to be as well a live stream. So you can have different ways of getting people into your site and giving this type of shopping experience. So instead of just creating an online store, you create a shopping experience. And we're going into beta now, like the proper beta with the new journey builder in about a week. So we have selected already 20 to 30 different merchants. Some are on Shopify, some are from WooCommerce, some are creators, and some are small brands, and some are large brands. So we want to basically work with a different portfolio of merchants. And they're going to working with us during the spring and the summertime, and hopefully opening up the platform to everyone in September, October, November, with a nice 90-day free trial to scale up during the Christmas time and the busy times for e-commerce.
Fantastic. Well done. I'm delighted that I'm speaking to you now because the listeners will hopefully follow and watch. And I'm assuming that we can sign up and be alerted when everything goes live. Is that right?
100%. Yeah, you can sign up on the wait list. But since the beta as well, you're going to be able to sign up as well for the beta. And we are going to have calls with people that sign up to see if they would be a good fit for the beta and get them in straight away if they want to.
Okay. That's great. Now, before we go, you're involved in a charity and it's connected to the Ukraine.
Yes.
And it's called commerceforgood.org. Mm-hmm. I think when we reflect in a year's time on the situation in the Ukraine, I think a lot of charities may have wasted money. A lot of charities may have done the wrong thing. And I think what you're doing through commerceforgood.org is, I think clever is the wrong word, but it's utilizing assets and people that are already there. Yes. So can you explain to the listeners exactly what you're doing through Commerce for Good?
Yeah, so Commerce for Good started because I live in Kyiv most of the time. So like my daughter is here, but I go back and forth from Ukraine to here because my wife is Ukrainian, and I love the city. So for me, it's been very personal when the war started. I was actually there 10 days before the war started. I came back to Ireland because my daughter wasn't feeling great, so we had to come back. Otherwise, I probably would have been still there.
Just on that then. Yeah. At that point, 10 days before, was it the same as here? People just thought that it was just rumors and it was just...
I'm going to send you I was actually there to interview an e-commerce for our show. Popup, we're having the Infinite Journey show. I was having a chat with an e-commerce, with the merchants over there about her story. And that was filmed 10 days before. You can see normality, myself and her having a chat. I was having dinner out and literally no one would have thought he's not going to attack. He's not going to attack.
We'll place the link in the show notes.
Yeah. And so what happened when the war started, a lot of our friends were starting to kind of ask us, hey, can you help here? Can you help there? We need this and we need that. And we realized that we could because we had work with Viceroy Group, especially. We had a huge portfolio of suppliers from, our, experience in e-commerce. We had suppliers in Italy, Vietnam, China, India, in different areas. And moreover, we had already one or two people in our team that they were sourcing products for us. And that's what their job, just scouting people and sourcing products. And so what we did, we started to collecting requests from people on the ground. And we then found an entry point in Romania via these volunteers that are basically using a Romanian warehouse and running charters in the country to deliver the goods. And this is the difference with UNICEF or Red Cross. People don't realize, but UNICEF and Red Cross, people that work for UNICEF and Red Cross, they are paid and they're not going to risk their life to deliver things on the ground. This is why there's all this money going into the large organization, but then when you actually speak on people on the ground, they're missing the basic needs. And so this is where we came in. We came in to fill up that gap. So we start buying things like the first thing we bought was radios. We bought like 500 radio for the territorial defense in Kyiv because, the territorial defense needed to communicate with each other. And then we had the opportunity to start working with a network of volunteers, and we have about 30 right now that are delivering foods and medicine to all people and disabled people, which are kind of forgotten in all of this. If you're old, if you're disabled, you can't leave the house because there are currently air raids. There is food in the country. It's not that the supermarkets are empty. It's not that people are experiencing famine right now, but they cannot go buy it. Or you cannot go to the pharmacy to actually get some medicine.
So the volunteers that are in those cities and that are doing the deliveries, they're just members of the public?
The members of the public, yeah. And they're risking their life every day. And they're people that, they had a job and they're just helping out. So what we do, we finance them. Yeah. We give them money for petrol. We give them money for the shopping. We give them money for the medicine. Because I have a bank account in Ukraine, I can send money to my bank account within 30 seconds, and then my Ukrainian bank account can send money to the volunteer straight away.
Just on that, kind of a technology question. I heard that the Ukraine and its government's use of technology in terms of banking is second to none. Is that right? Everything is basically digital or electronic?
Correct, yeah. So there is a Ministry of Digital Transformation, it's called DIA, and they built an app that has everything is digitalized. So your passport, you pay your bills online and everything else. And also you have fintech like Monobank that it allows this type of quick payments by QR code as well. Give you an example. You go eat in a restaurant, you sit down in a cafe, there is a QR code, you scan it, you order from the menu, and then when it's moment to pay, you scan it again, it reads what you got, you pay, and then you leave. You don't need even to go at the till.
So they're probably 20, 30 years ahead of most European countries.
100%, yes. That's why I love Ukraine, because it's a young government, and you can see like Kylie, the Minister of Digital Transformation, how we rallied up, Elon Musk and all of this.
Yeah.
These are guys our age.
Yeah.
It's like they're not old people. They're very, very young. All the team of Zelensky, of the president, they're all very young.
But that makes it harder then for you with such a connection to the country to watch what's going on
100%, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So the volunteers on the ground, are they able to get around?
Yeah, 100%, yes. Yeah. They're we got them bulletproof vests as well, so we were able to get some protection gear. And then they get orders every day. We send the money over. And then on the other side, then we work with requests on the ground to outsource different things that they're hard to find, such as like radios, thermoscanner images, and things like that. One thing that we've been doing is, at the beginning, it was very easy to raise funds, because I had a network of people, and the initial cash intake was easy to get. But once that was exhausted, it started to get a little bit hard. So what we did, we launched a store with on Shopify for the moment, but it's going to be on Popup next week. Yeah. It was actually a Popup.store. Very last, that was a Popup store.
Will you make sure and share the links? Yeah, and we'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, it's called Artists for Good. And what we did, we had about 10 different creators and artists and influencers, and they did prints. And then in partnership with Printful, we launched a print store, and then we contacted like 3 or 4 influencer agency, and the influencers started doing this for free.
Wow.
So we did about $15,000 in 2 or 3 days. And now we start actually launching some Facebook ads with the 4 ROAS. So amazing.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to basically do that. And all the profits go to obviously Commerce for Good, to then buy all this humanitarian need.
Well done. That's fantastic. And I've always admired the guys that run Printful. They're in Latvia? Do they have staff in the Ukraine anymore? They probably do.
Yeah, they're very connected. They are doing a lot of things in terms of PR with Ukraine. So for us, I mean, it was literally creating a store, and they are just shipping. I wouldn't say it was a partnership that they did special favors or anything like that, but because they said we're already doing a lot. So
okay, that's the thing too.
That's fair enough.
They're probably being contacted by multiple different people.
Yes.
Matteo, thank you so much for your time. I've had some really interesting people in here, but I can tell you one thing. There's very few of them have traveled around the world like you.
Thanks.
Your knowledge of e-commerce as it is fantastic, but also your plans for Popup mean that you will probably have a big influence on possibly changing the e-commerce landscape. So
yeah, 100%.
I just want to thank you for taking the time. Delighted it was face to face, actually.
Yeah, me too. It was very nice. Yeah.
And we will share the links that you spoke about in the show notes, and anything else that we can do in the future on the socials or on an email. Let's just stay in touch.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. A special note of appreciation goes to our sponsors, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify and BigCommerce store owners. Get your first month free by responding to your welcome email once you sign up for your free trial on Rewind.io. Cinder is worth considering for your e-commerce accounting and reporting needs. Use a coupon code EasyBooks for up to 40% off. Klaviyo, which helps e-commerce brands easily create personalized, multi-channel marketing campaigns using your most powerful asset, your customer data. To get started with a free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/milkbottle. That's KLAVIYO.com/milkbottle. If you're a Shopify user with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on podcast@milkbottlelabs.com. Until next time, take care.